Hello, welcome back to section 8, or chapter 8, section 4, I should say. Factoring ax squared plus bx plus c when a is not equal to the hidden 1. Pardon me. All right, now we're going to do these problems exactly the same as the previous video. The difference for this is that the last term is going to be negative. That causes a problem if you do everything by the guess and check method. If you follow the steps in the previous video with what is nicknamed the diamond method, which because of the X, some people draw a whole diamond around it. I guess I should have done that, but it doesn't matter. If you do that method that I showed you in the previous video and what I'm going to show you here, it's not going to matter. It'll all be okay. Just remember, a negative times a negative equals a positive. That's what happened with the last problems. Also, we got positive times positive equals positive. Now, in order to have things multiply and get a negative, one of them has to be positive, one has to be negative. That's all. It's way more difficult if you do it with the method I showed you in the first video, where you just try different things and keep plugging in until you get it. However, this is going to be a little bit easier. So let's do the same thing. My a is 4, my b is 7, my c is negative 2. So my a is 4, my b is 7, and my c is negative 2. The top of this is my diamond, okay? Some people draw a whole diamond around it. My top of my diamond is going to be a times c. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. And I put the b down here, 7. So remember, this is a times c, and this is the b. And I'll say that every time, but I don't know if I'm always going to write it. So I'm trying to be mindful of the fact that people are like scrubbing through here looking for important stuff. So if you miss it, good luck. What two numbers multiply to give negative 8, but when I add I get positive 7. That means one of them has to be positive, one of them has to be negative. And since the sum is positive, that means the number that looks bigger without the sign has to be the positive one. So I can go through a list, but the first one I'm going to find is going to be the one I'm looking for. Negative 1 times positive 8. Negative 1 times positive 8 equals negative 8, and negative 1 plus positive 8 equals positive 7. So I guess that's the guessing part, but you don't even have to guess, just make a list. And you saw that when I did the previous video. All right, 4y squared goes here. I know they switched to the y instead of the x. Don't panic about that. The negative 2 comes down here. The negative 1 and the 8, I put negative 1x and 8x. Or I can switch these two. That doesn't matter. Now I factor this using the same skills that I've learned before. I have a 4 times 1 here and a 4 times 2. That has a common factor of 4. It also has a common y. What got left behind? The other y and the 2. Negative 1 times x and negative 1 times 2, the common factor is negative 1. Let's check it. Negative 1 times y is, and I actually wrote an x. I'm so sorry. I'm so used to it being x. I just caught that. You're probably yelling at your screen. Negative 1 times y is negative y, and negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Okay, I got to be careful with that. They always throw me when they do something than what I expect, I suppose. So I get 4y subtract 1 times y plus 2. And again, you check it by multiplying, but I've already got it all multiplied here anyway, so I know I'm good. Let's do this one. Thank goodness there's an x. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Put the negative 20 here. First times last. The 19 in the middle goes here. Give me two numbers that multiply to give negative 20. And when I add them, I get 19. One more time. One has to be positive, one has to be negative. Since the sum is positive, that means the number that looks bigger has to be the positive one. And since 19 is close to 20, I know it's going to be 20 and negative 1. So 20 times negative 1 is negative 20, and 20 plus negative 1 is 19. And again, think about what we did in the previous video. If you need to make a list, you can make a list. Maybe I'll do it with the... Yeah, I'll do it with the next one because it'll make more sense. Both of these had a negative 1 in it, so it was I'm not going to get very far in my list. That's why I'm holding off for that. But in the next one, I'll show you what I'm talking about. The 4x squared goes here. The negative 5 goes here. The 20 and the negative 1 become 20x and negative 1x. And again, it doesn't matter which place you put them. That doesn't matter. What do these two have in common? They don't have anything other than the common 1. This is 2 times 2, and this is negative 1 times 1. So there's no common factor other than 1, but they do have a common x. That leaves the 4 and the other x, and that leaves a negative 1. What do these two have in common? Well, this is 4 times 5, and this is negative 1 times 5. So they have a common factor of 5. Now let's check it. X times 4x is 4x squared. X times negative 1 is negative 1x. 5 times 4x is 20x, and 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. So my factored form is going to be, and I'll switch it on purpose, 4x subtract 1 times x plus 5. Grabbing my second sheet here. All right, my A is 2, my B is negative 7, and my C is negative 15. Let's make my diamond. 2 times negative 15 is negative 30. Negative 7 goes down here at the bottom. And by the way, you don't even have to write this. If you want to do it in your head, super duper, but writing it actually helps out a lot. It's what we call an organizer. It helps you organize your thinking. You can have like a drawer with no organizer and everything's in there, and if you know where to find it, great. But sometimes it helps to have things organized. What two numbers multiply to give negative 30, but they add to give negative 7? Now this one's a little different than the other ones. If I look at the first two I did, that was positive and that was positive. This one's going to be positive. But since this middle term is negative, that means that the number that looks bigger has to be negative. Now I told you I'd show you my thinking process. What multiplies to give negative 30, and the number that looks bigger is going to be negative. Again, all negatives are actually less than all positives. But I'm just looking at like what we actually call the absolute value of it, all right, the magnitude of the number. So I'm going to start with positive 1 and negative 30. If I add these two, I get negative 29, not negative 7. Okay, so not that one. Positive 2 and negative 15. If I add 2 times negative 15 is negative 30, and if I add, I get negative 13, not negative 7. So let's try 3 and negative 10. 3 times negative 10 is negative 30, and 3 plus negative 10 is negative 7. So that's it. If I missed it, I probably would have done 5 and negative 6, and then that would have been all the choices I would have for multiplying and getting a negative and adding and getting a negative. The next one would have been positive 6 and negative 5, but that would have given me a positive 1. But it's this one right here. So I'm going to put 3 and negative 10. Now I need my box. The 2x squared goes here. The negative 15 goes down in this corner. And the 3 and the negative 10, those two are my middle term that adds up to negative 7x. What do these two have in common? This is 2 times 1, this is 2 times negative 5. So I have a 2, I also have the x. What got left behind? The other x and negative 5. So 2x times x is 2x squared, 2x times negative 5 is negative 10x. What do these two have in common? They both have a 3. This is 3 times 1, and that's 3 times 5. So 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. Factored form, I get 2x plus 3, 2x plus 3, times x subtract 5. As always, if you need to pause and watch it again and rewind it, I said that backwards. If you need to pause it, rewind it, and watch it again, that's fine. Or just pause it and look and see what I did. make sure you know where everything came from. Go through it yourself, all right? The 3x and the negative 10x came from here, and then I started to factor, doing the common factor along each row and each column. All right, last one in this section. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. 7 goes right here. Give me two numbers that multiply to give negative 18, and when I add them I get positive 7. The number that looks bigger is going to be positive. Over here, the number that looked bigger, 30 looks bigger than 1, 15 looks bigger than 2, but all these negatives are actually less than. In this case, they will, sorry, I got the hiccups. Hold my breath. Oh, sorry. It will be bigger, okay? So I can make my list again. I can say negative 1 and 18, that's 17, that's not right. Negative 2 and 9, there it is. I could have also done negative 3 and 6, but it's that one right there. So I have negative 2 and 9. So I'm going to make my multiplication chart. I have 4 parts. The 6x squared goes here, the negative 3 goes here, and the 7x actually comes from adding negative 2x and 9x. So I actually had 4 terms, except these two I can add together. If I was simplifying it, remember I'm working backwards, all right? So this is 3 times 2 and this is 3 times 3. I have a common 3x. That left behind the other 2, I'm sorry, the 2 and the other x, and 3. 3x times 2x is 6x squared. 3x times 3 is 9x. What do these two have in common? Doesn't look like they have anything in common other than a negative 1. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x, and negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. So my factored form is 3x subtract 1 times 2x plus 3. All right, we'll see you in the next video.